Host Ashley Perrien and my co-host this week, Russell Glasser.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
We are being sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. Those start around 11:30 and typically go till 1, 2 o'clock, there, somewhere in there. Very informal meeting, open to any atheist-friendly people. You don't have to be a member of the group or anything to come down there. I encourage anybody who wants to come down and meet some other people, definitely come down. We'd love to meet you. That's every Sunday, Crescent City Beignets at 11:30. Other things that we do, every Thursday night, we have Atheist Happy Hour at Antonio's Tex-Mex on the southbound feeder of I-35, just south of 183. That starts at 7:30 and again goes until 10 o'clock or thereabouts. Again, very much like Sunday, very informal, open to anyone who wants to come down and chat with us. Also, every other Saturday, we have our internet audio show, The Non-Prophets, hosted on atheistnetwork.com, and that's produced by Russell Glasser. The host on that is Jeff D. You were going to have a show yesterday, but that was canceled.
Yeah, we missed it.
Yeah, some other things are going on. And the next one is going to be in 2 weeks, September 11th.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I didn't even notice that when I wrote it down.
How about that?
So anyway, next show apparently is scheduled for September 11th.
That should be interesting.
So, yeah. But anyway, that's atheistnetwork.com every other Saturday, 2 to 3:30. There's also a live interactive chat feature on the site. You can go into that and put in your comments, and occasionally they will respond to them. Also, new announcements. In 2004, October this year, we're going to be having the Texas Atheist and Agnostic Conference. That's going to be October 8th through 10th, which is Friday through Sunday. And it's going to be for all of Central Texas. We're going to be having, currently on the schedule, we have Mike Newdow, who had brought the Pledge of Allegiance case. He should be speaking there, and also Thomas Van Orden, the lawyer who's trying to get the Ten Commandments monument on the Texas state capitol grounds taken down. That is going to be in October, again, 8th through 10th, I believe. And if you go to our website, atheist-community.org, we should have a link there within the week with a little more information and details on that one. That is it for regular announcement. I've got a couple news stories and such I can go over later, assuming we have time. Before we get on, again, this is a live call-in show. It's Sunday, August 29th, and we'll be getting calls in a little bit. First, we're going to go over to Russell Glasser and see what you have for us today.
Okay. At this point, it's almost become a tradition for me to start my talk off by saying that I'm not an authority on anything whatsoever, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But in this case, I'm going to be talking about hell today. And I've actually had one of those experiences that you hear about in conversion stories all the time.
You saw the fiery pits of hell.
That's right. I've seen the lake of fire. I've seen demons and monsters crawling out of it, looking to rend victims limb from limb. It's a pretty scary and unpleasant place. Luckily, at the time, I had a fully loaded plasma rifle and a futuristic chainsaw, so I managed to fight my way out of there pretty effectively. That's right. For the last few weeks, I've been addicted to the computer game Doom 3. This, of course, is an extension of a very popular series back in the 90s, and this was pretty scary. I'm giving it a thumbs up. It's not great art, but
I don't think Doom was ever meant to be an artistic piece of work.
But it ranks up there with pretty good slasher movies. It's got stuff that jumps out at you in the dark, and it kind of offers a sort of more traditional, if you will, picture of how hell looks. It's got the fire and brimstone. It's got the demons.
Okay.
It's got walking skeletons and giant fat blobs that float in the air and shoot fireballs at you. Well, okay, not so much the last part as the traditional picture of hell. And also the fact that these walking skeletons have rocket launchers on their shoulders. That's, that's a little bit updated.
Yeah, they have some artistic leeway in here over the biblical stuff, but oh well.
But, this is how we traditionally think of hell, which is, a not nice place where people are scared and tortured all the time. Yeah. And, this certainly is in a long tradition of what people have talked about for thousands of years. There's no shortage of references to hell in the Bible. Of course, not all of them are all that specific. But certainly it's in there. Matthew 18:8, for instance, mentions that if your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell. So hell is an unpleasant place where you go if you are bad and God is upset at you in traditional Christian beliefs. And of course, then there's the well-known John chapter 3, where verse 36 says, "Whoever believes in the Son has eternal life, but whoever rejects the Son will not see life, for God's wrath remains upon him." So this is sort of the progenitor of the modern Protestant synthesis of hell, which is that as the Bible says, there's one way to get to heaven, and that's through me, the Son.
Yes.
Which kind of contributes to the overall feeling of Christianity, like many religions, as being a part of a sort of exclusive club. Well, I mean, supposedly it's not that exclusive. Anybody can accept Jesus.
Yes. But only at the right time. Or at the right time you will be judged.
Right. Of course, the Bible is not long on specifics about hell. There's, of course, the book of Revelation, which is all full of wacky stuff.
Yeah.
7-headed monsters and things. It mentions hell. It says, "And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." People who are who just tuned in like 2 minutes ago are probably like, "I thought this was the Atheist Experience." What I'm doing is giving a sort of an overview of the history of the Christian picture of hell.
Okay.
Let's see. I want to put this in some context. It's sort of fashionable today after, in the post-September 11th world, 2001. Christian apologists are sort of falling all over themselves to talk about what's wrong with Islam.
Yeah.
And what a horrible, bad religion it is, and how Christianity is really the only religion that promotes peace and love.
Okay.
Now, of course, if you go back and look at the roots of Christianity, it of course comes from the Old Testament, where Deuteronomy, for instance, tells believers to have no mercy on apostates. "You must stone him to death, since he has tried to divert you from Yahweh your God. Death is the punishment for anyone breaking the 10 Commandments," and so on. But if you bring this up to Christians, they'll tell you that, Jesus came along, and he superimposed a nicer law.
Yeah.
So we don't go around slaughtering people and raping the women and killing all the men above age and enslaving people because Jesus said that's, and we don't keep kosher either. Kind of lost in the discussion, though, of how Christianity is a more nice religion is the fact that they brought up hell. As far as I know, Jewish, traditional Judaism is sort of on the fence about the picture of hell, about the question of hell. The Old Testament doesn't have a lot to say about it. Yeah. I know lots of Jews who don't think anything at all about the afterlife.
Yeah.
So the Bible has a lot of references to hell, but a lot of our modern picture of hell didn't actually enter into it until Dante, who was a 14th century writer, who wrote a series called The Divine Comedy, in which he went to hell and then purgatory and then heaven, and he wrote all these verses. Inferno is where we get a whole lot of our modern images of hell. Now, in Inferno, there's 8 levels of hell, and each level is reserved for a different kind of person. You've got the gluttons level, and you've got the betrayers, and you've got the haters. And each level has its own wacky and oddly fitting punishment for whoever happens to live there. I forget which punishment matches up with which crime. But
surprisingly, I do remember that I think the worst pit of hell was actually a freezing cold.
Yes, Satan and 2 other guys were in a block of ice for eternity. Yeah. No?
No, Satan was a 3-headed beast, and he was eating a traitor with each mouth.
What? That was the next to last level, where the frozen block of ice was.
Okay.
I think.
All right.
Okay.
Anyway.
Obviously, as I've said, we're not I'm not an English professor or an Italian literature professor. But it's interesting that we get so much of what we think about as hell now from Dante, because Dante's Inferno was as much a political diatribe as it was a religious text, which is why he put a whole lot of popes in there that he felt sort of betrayed the faith. A whole lot of contemporary leaders. Yeah. Of course, he was sort of continuing in this grand, long-standing tradition of using the threat of hell as a weapon against people who piss you off. If you don't start coming around to my way of true Christianity, then you're going to wind up in hell too. Modern Protestantism, though, takes it a step further, which is, you all deserve hell and so do I.
Yes, we're all scum in the eyes of the Lord.
Yes. Let me outline what I see as the modern Protestant view of hell, which is basically, we're all, no matter how good you are, you're really bad.
Yes.
Because you're human and we have original sin and stuff like that. And you deserve to go to hell, but luckily Jesus came along and he makes you, or he takes away your sins. You're still a rotten person.
Yes.
But Jesus hides your rottenness, basically, or cloaks it, and then he lets you into heaven because of that. Nowhere is this better expressed than in the writings of 18th century preacher Jonathan Edwards. Can I get a close-up on this guy? This is Jonathan Edwards. I'm not talking about the guy on the Sci-Fi Channel who talks to dead people, and I'm not talking about the guy who's running for vice president.
But he is one very angry-looking person.
Yes. Although if you look at him the right way, he kind of looks like Bach. But this guy was the original fire and brimstone preacher. And I'll give you an example from a sermon he wrote in 1741. This is called Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. The God that holds you over the pit of hell, much as one holds a spider or some loathsome insect over the fire, abhors you and is dreadfully provoked. His wrath towards you burns like fire. He looks upon you as worthy of nothing else but to be cast into the fire. He is of purer eyes than to bear to have you in his sight. You are 10,000 times more abominable in his eyes than the most hateful, venomous serpent is in ours. You have offended him infinitely more than ever a stubborn rebel did his prince. And yet, it is nothing but his hand that holds you from falling into the fire every moment.
But he loves you, and he cares about you. We promise.
Skipping ahead. It is everlasting wrath. It would be dreadful to suffer this fierceness and wrath of Almighty God one moment. But you must suffer it to all eternity. There will be no end to this exquisite, horrible misery. When you look forward, you shall see a long forever, a boundless duration before you, which will swallow up your thoughts and amaze your soul, and you will absolutely despair of ever having any deliverance, any end, any mitigation, any rest at all.
Wow.
Don't forget to pack your plasma gun.
Wow. Loving kind of guy.
This is hell as it appears in all its traditional glory.
Yes.
But the times, they are changing. And although a lot of people really believe this stuff, fundamentalists, this is what they really believe about you. You're disgusting. Yep. You should go to hell, but, God is going to be nice to you and not give you what you really deserve.
Yeah.
A lot of modern moderate religion, let's say, is centered. One of the things that they strive to do is, well, let me put it this way: hell is a revolting concept.
Yes.
It's not loving. It's about everybody who's not a Christian or doesn't meet whatever criteria the particular Christian talking happens to think is the right way. I mean, because they're Catholics and Lutherans and they all and Baptists.
They all think they're all going to hell.
They all think different things.
Yeah.
But whoever fails to live up to this not only will be tortured forever, but they deserve it.
Yeah.
So you get to the 20th century and you see some people starting to back away from that more. And I've got an example of something that C.S. Lewis wrote, which I haven't read. You may know C.S. Lewis better as the author of the Chronicles of Narnia. Those nice little kids' books, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I figure about half the audience will already know that this is an allegory about Jesus. Aslan the lion was actually Jesus. He died and came back to life. Near the end of the series, you have this cataclysmic end times battle between the Jesus followers and some beak-headed god named Tash, who represents Islam.
Okay.
But C.S. Lewis was, of course, a very famous apologist, and he wrote a lot of works. And one of these books, which I haven't read, but I pulled a complete plot summary off of Wikipedia.com, was called "The Great Divorce." In The Great Divorce, the narrator, C.S. Lewis himself, dreams that he's in a grim and gloomy town, a depiction of hell, or purgatory for those who leave it. He finds a bus for people who wish to see heaven, gets on and converses with some of the other people on the bus. The bus eventually reaches paradise, and the people on the bus realize they are ghosts, and every feature of the landscape, including drops of water and blades of grass, causes them immense pain. Shining people come to meet those from the town and try to persuade them to repent and enter heaven proper. Most of the ghosts refuse, giving various reasons and excuses. None of these ghosts realize they have been in hell. So this is C.S. Lewis's nicer version of hell, where first of all, there's no demons with pitchforks. There's no skeletons with rocket launchers. There's just this sort of insubstantial place where everybody sort of lives, and in C.S. Lewis's conception, these were grumpy people in their lives anyway.
Okay.
And so they wouldn't be happy in heaven because everybody is so nice there. They don't realize they're in hell. They have something that sort of vaguely resembles their real life.
Yeah.
And so they choose to stay there. And that's kind of nice because it gets God off the hook.
Yeah.
Because one of the big issues that I think a lot of atheists have with religion is why would a really good being torture people for eternity on purpose? And it's standard in modern Reform Christianity, let's say, to kind of say, well, you know, it's not God's fault. He doesn't really want you to be tortured, but you choose to go there by yourself.
Yeah.
And you choose to stay there because heaven would seem like a bad place to you. And you are separated from the Lord in your life, and so you'll get your wish, which is to be separated from God forever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's not my wish. What I mean is, my wish isn't to live in some insubstantial, depressing place where all the people around me are grumpy.
Yeah.
There's another bit in this apparently where he mentions that, you know, you have neighbors, but since they're all nasty people who lacked compassion anyway, which is why they're not in heaven, they gradually move away from each other.
So there's a lot of real estate in hell.
Well, yeah, there's infinite, I suppose. Except, you know, I wouldn't stay there.
Yeah.
I mean, C.S. Lewis is an idiot if he thinks that most atheists are going to feel like staying there, unless C.S. Lewis's heaven is much worse.
Well, C.S. Lewis may not have known many atheists.
Yeah, well, I mean, supposedly...
Considering not too many of us are, you know, tired, grumpy old men.
Right.
So.
Well, some of us are.
Some, true, but not us.
Hell in C.S. Lewis's book sounds like a rotten place. I mean, I don't mind being separated from God. According to him, I'm separated from God here. But you know, there are a lot of things that are worthwhile in my life that I don't feel are empty as I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
There's, you know, great food and great music and walks to the park and sex and you know, lots of great things about life.
Yeah.
If the issue was mercy, then I got a simple way that he could make me happy, assuming he existed. And I should point out to first-time viewers that we often talk in these hypothetical terms as if we accepted that this God of the Bible thing was true.
Of course. Which we don't.
Right. But, you know, if this imaginary God wanted to make me happy, one thing he could do was just give me eternal life. Here.
Yeah.
You know, not whisk me away to some insubstantial place with dickheads for neighbors. There's another example that I'm going to wrap up with of somebody who has different ideas about hell, and that's outlined in a book which a lot of people ask atheists to read. And in fact, I got this from my sister, whose friend gave it to her because she's an unbeliever. And a lot of people think that this is a very persuasive book and will bring them to the faith. And that would be this book.
Sold in all high street retailers.
Yes, The Case for Faith by Lee Strobel. I've heard this guy interviewed on the radio many times. Yeah. They love him. They slobber all over this book.
Yeah.
They say, you know, this is such a wonderful book because not only are the arguments convincing, but it's not dry at all. It reads like a fast-paced novel. I take issue with that.
Yeah.
Because I won't say that I've read the entire book, but I have skimmed a lot of parts of it, and so many things bug me about this. Okay, the writing style is kind of patronizing, I personally think. He likes to describe how people are feeling on practically every single sentence, which is why you get sentences like Templeton's eyes got wide as he spoke.
Yeah.
He remarked fondly. His response was crisp. As I had been watching William Lane Craig, I noticed he displayed a serene confidence in what he was saying. I read him the colorful words of a frustrated spiritual speaker. These are just random examples that I pulled out of the pages like a few minutes before I left the house.
Yeah.
The whole book is like that. And the way this book goes is Lee Strobel was a journalist who was supposedly a staunch atheist. And then one day he decided to objectively use his journalist skills to investigate the evidence for Christ, which is how his first book was written, The Case for Christ.
Which is what separates this book from objective journalistic tasks.
Right.
In that it's so artistically done.
Yeah.
It's not an objective review of the facts.
Well, of course, another thing that separates this book from objective journalism is what really started him on his search for Christ, which is he married a Christian.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was sad that he was going to hell, and that's when he started investigating.
Yeah.
So the other thing that annoys me about this book, and I know we're going off on a tangent here, but there's so much fun to be had in this book.
Yeah.
He interviews, for every chapter he comes up with some major objection to Christianity, and he interviews some famous Christian apologist, and the Christian apologist utterly knocks down every argument that he can come up with.
Yeah.
Except the atheists never get a rebuttal.
Yeah.
He doesn't interview any atheists during the chapters. The Christians always get the last word, and Lee Strobel, the staunch atheist, is sitting there going, "Oh yeah, gee, I never thought of that."
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard him interviewed, as I said, and his response to this sort of criticism is, "Well, I didn't need to interview any atheists. I was the loyal opposition."
Bollocks.
But he's so bad at it.
Yes. This is obviously someone who had never actually argued the case.
Right. Which you really need to do, which is why we're here.
Yeah.
In a way. We're serving as a shining example of how to listen to both sides and argue.
Exactly. Most of the arguments in that book are the kind of things that we get calls on every week.
Yes, and soon, as you can see, we'll be taking callers, talking about hell, hopefully, and many other things. But he does interview one atheist in the book.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of the book, in fact. The first person he talks to is a fellow named Richard Templeton. And I'd like to read you how that interview turned out. Richard Templeton, this is the atheist speaking, says, "There have been many other wonderful people, but Jesus is Jesus." And Lee Strobel says, "And so the world would do well to emulate him?" "Oh my goodness, yes. I have tried, and try is as far as I can go, to act as I have believed he would act. That doesn't mean I could read his mind, because one of the most fascinating things about him was that he often did the opposite thing you'd expect." Abruptly, Templeton cut short his thoughts. There was a brief pause, almost as if he was uncertain whether he should continue. But no," he said slowly. "He's the most..." He stopped, then started again. "In my view," he declared, "he is the most important human being who has ever existed." And that's when Templeton uttered the words I never expected to hear from him. "And if I may put it this way," he said as his voice began to crack, "I miss him." And tears flooded his eyes. Folks, this is the guy representing us in this book. That's our loyal defense.
Doing it poorly.
I don't know who this guy is. I never heard of him before.
Thankfully
before
not.
Lee Strobel, but he's our token atheist, the guy who believes that Jesus is the most perfect being who ever lived and misses him.
We should all emulate
desperately.
him and we miss him. And
which kind of undercuts Strobel's argument that, here's a guy who used to think like you, and now, now he's converted to. Now I've converted to Christianity. Because if Lee Strobel thought that was a convincing defense of atheism, then boy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get back to my discussion on hell, and then we're going to go back to callers. Throughout this book, Lee Strobel, in, 8 chapters, outlines some of Richard Templeton's arguments for what's wrong with Christianity. And one of them, which I think is a pretty good objection, is a loving God would never torture people in hell. So he interviews a different guy in each chapter. In this chapter, it's a fellow named J.P. Moreland. I cleared my throat and sat upright. There's that description again. Yes, thank you for letting me know that your throat had phlegm in it. Turning to face Moreland more squarely. Look, Dr. Moreland, I began, my voice notching up in intensity. I interviewed Charles Templeton about this matter, and he was very adamant. He told me, I couldn't hold someone's hand to a fire for a moment, not for an instant. How could a loving God, just because you don't obey him and do what he wants, torture you forever, not allowing you to die, but to continue in that pain for eternity? Skipping ahead. The key to answering Templeton is in his wording, Moreland began. He has loaded his question to the point where it's like asking, when did you stop beating your wife? No matter how you reply, you're doomed from the outset if you accept his wording. So his premise is wrong? I said. How so? Well, for one thing, hell is not a torture chamber. My eyebrows shot up. Certainly that would be news to many generations of Sunday school children who have been frightened into nightmares by gruesome depictions of the everlasting infliction of fiery agony in Hades. It's not? I asked. Moreland shook his head. God doesn't torture people in hell, so he's flat wrong about that. God is the most generous, loving, wonderful, attractive being in the cosmos. He has made us with free will, and he has made us for a purpose, to relate lovingly to him and others. Let's skip this part. Dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum. This makes for great TV. Flipping pages. Where was I? God can't make people's character for them, and people who do evil or cultivate false beliefs start a slide away from God that ultimately ends in hell. God respects human freedom. In fact, it would be unloving, sort of a divine rape, to force people to accept heaven. And God, if they didn't really want them. When God allows people to say no to him, he actually respects and dignifies them. Well, that's
moronic,
great and all. So we're back to this idea that I, as an atheist, have chosen to go to hell.
Yes.
Okay, so let's run with that. Question is, according to J.P. Moreland, am I going to enjoy hell?
Of course not.
Well, I don't know. I don't actually know what his answer would be. I mean, because if I can enjoy hell, I mean, if hell is a lot like, has all the stuff that I listed a minute ago, if hell is a lot like this place where I'm already separated from God, and if I can keep learning new things, which makes life interesting, and I can keep arguing with callers on TV shows, there's the number, then hell, then I have absolutely no problem with it. Yeah. But even the most liberal Christian, I think, isn't really willing to say, yeah, hell is a great place. Atheists are going to have a blast in there. They're not going to say that it's fire and torture, but why should I be stuck in a miserable, boring place in the first place?
Yeah.
I think what it comes down to in the end is that even liberal Christianity has a sort of us versus them mentality. I think less so than fundamentalists.
Yeah.
But this heaven and hell bit is a way of dividing up the world and seeing it as, well, these are bad people, and these people are not going to be tortured forever, but they're going to be bored forever or have lousy neighbors forever, and they really deserve that.
No, they don't deserve, well, yes they do, but that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
So they're just getting what they want.
Which is why I've, in a way, and I'm going to insult some viewers now, but I find liberal Christianity something of a cop-out. Because even if they're nice people, they're still choosing to identify with a book whose core message is, you deserve to be miserable forever.
Yeah.
And according to J.P. Moreland, for instance, if I don't like it, I can't just be snuffed out or made to disappear. and I can't go to heaven because that would be like a rape.
Yeah.
Even if I changed my mind and wanted to later.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I still think the concept of hell is more cruel than any of us would have devised, which means I'm less of a mean guy than God is in this fictional thing. Yeah. Now, there's one more point I want to touch on before I turn it over to callers, which is when I hear the question brought up of why is hell necessary, which is a big question I would have. I get the line that something like, well, there has to be some kind of divine justice. Yeah. For instance, Hitler. If there's no hell, then Hitler just died, and he never got really punished. He's just dead. He died in the arms of his mistress, and now there's no punishment, there's no retribution, there's no hell. So there must be a hell to redress the balance. Except, according to modern baptism, it doesn't matter how much good or bad you did, because everybody's a sinner. I mean, did you listen to Jonathan Edwards a second ago? You're a loathsome insect being held over the pits of hell. So, in the eyes of God, jaywalking is an infinite crime.
Yes. Yes.
Worse than that, I don't know what was in Hitler's heart when he died. Maybe. I mean, there's been speculation that he was actually a devout Catholic, and there's arguments on both sides of that. But even if he wasn't for his entire life, maybe he had a last-minute conversion. He was like, in the Jack Chick comics, they go, oh, Jesus, I know I'm a sinner, forgive me. So, picture this. If Hitler had a deathbed conversion, then he's now in heaven, while some of the Jews he killed are in hell because they didn't accept Jesus.
All of them.
Well, it could have been Jews for Jesus.
True.
So I don't buy that argument either.
Yeah. All right. Shall we go on to callers?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Again, this is a live call-in show. We are live today, August 29th, and have about an hour left in the show. So, again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, go ahead and give us a call, and we'll get you on the air and see what you got to say. First off, we have Agnes. How you doing?
Hello. How are y'all doing?
Hi, Agnes.
Pretty well.
I got a good question for those Christians out there. If a person that burned forever in a crematory, how are they supposed to burn forever in hell?
True, but then again, in the Bible, they do have that story about the burning bush.
Yeah, the laws of physics don't apply to God.
Yeah. So, burning bush that is not consumed or something, so you can burn forever. But I'm wondering if then it wears off,
Only
when God wants it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I threw out 2 Bibles that I had stored in my house, and I threw out all the junk, and that was the best things I ever threw out. I'm glad I got rid of them because I sure feel better about it. Well, that's all I had to say. Y'all have a great day, and I love y'all's show.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Thanks a lot for watching.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Also, you're talking about divine justice there. It actually kind of ties into one of the emails I can go over really quickly.
Okay, great.
Let me see. Just lightly, actually. This is a viewer who was watching last week, John, and he said, I've been an atheist for a little while now. What really prompted me, as an atheist, I've begun to ask myself a few questions. 1, how can I be certain either way that there is or is not a creator? And 2, isn't my willingness to become an atheist just another form of religious fundamentalist fanaticism? Going for the first question, how can I be certain either way that there is or is not a creator? We can't be certain of a lot of things in life.
Right.
You can't prove God. Well, God could essentially prove that he does exist, could come down, stomp around the city for a little bit, subject himself to scientific tests, and he exists. From our position, we can't prove he doesn't exist, but then again, we can't prove that fairies, elves, and everything else don't exist either. Right. That's not good justification to believe them. And also, isn't my willingness to become an atheist just another form of religious fundamentalist fanaticism? Not unless you start speaking in tongues. And handling snakes and such. Again, you don't have to go overboard.
Well, I mean, that that argument is a little different for atheists because having faith implies that you sort of hold on to something, even if the evidence goes against it, basically.
No. Religious fundamentalist fanaticism would imply that you have some kind of dogma that you must get out there.
Right.
You must preach the word.
I don't have to be an atheist. I'm willing to say that now. I could become a theist if the conditions were right, and I bet you won't find a lot of theists who are willing to say something similar.
Yeah, that would become an atheist if...
Right.
So.
There's, for most people, I think there's absolutely no condition you could probably come up with that would prove there's no God.
Yeah. Another thing in the email, a different point, I've further been drawn to conclude that atheism has really not given me much to look forward to or to hope in, nor has it made my life any more fun or fulfilling.
Well, you're not going to hell.
There you go. But that's not the point of atheism. That's not the point of truth or science or anything like that. The point of science is to tell you what's real, not what you want to hear. Again, I don't like the fact that I'm going to die in so many years, assuming that this cryogenics thing doesn't really pan out.
Right.
But assuming that, I'm going to die, that's kind of sucky. But that just because it sucks doesn't make it false.
If I believed that there was a diamond buried the size of a refrigerator buried in my backyard,
Wow.
I might be happier. I might become more generous.
Yeah.
I might, I might sort of give up on stress and cares about the real world. Doesn't make it real.
Yeah. But yeah, this actually we had a caller a couple weeks back who brought up, you were talking about the divine justice before, who brought that up on the show, saying that, and he brought up the exact point you made, Hitler.
Yeah.
The fact that there is no divine justice. How can you believe something where people who are evil in the world don't get some kind of just desserts, basically?
Protestantism isn't about justice.
Yeah.
It's about accept Jesus or burn.
Exactly. And again, does it suck that some people are going to live a bad life and there is no eternal punishment for them of some, or even not even eternal, just some form of punishment? Again, that's not necessarily a good thing, but it's, as far as we can tell, how the universe works.
Right.
So I'm not willing to go out on that limb and just say, yeah, I'm a Christian because, it's such a good belief system. Shoot,
forgot what I was going to say.
Okay. Quick thing also I can go over here.
I'm sorry. Nevertheless, there were a lot of things to enjoy in life. I've listed some.
Of course.
And you should get over the idea that life isn't enough, because it's good.
Yeah. If life isn't enough.
I think part of the benefit of being an atheism is being able to accept that idea without worrying about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear that goes on. Religions play on it a lot in the fear of hell. Mm-hmm. Whether you take, the fire and brimstone or just the separation from God, it's still got a factor of fear in there.
Right.
So religion is obviously a big player in that. But even for our side, just, again, the idea, it's scary that your life is going to end. It's scary that there is no eternal reward. It's scary that there isn't justice. Being able to look at the world in reality, how this world actually is, it's a good thing. It's nice to be able to go outside and enjoy the garden for what it is without having to make up the idea that there are fairies and elves at the bottom of it to make it all that much more exciting. Learning is what makes this world exciting. So go out there and do some of it. Abandon religion. It doesn't add anything. It takes something away from life. It teaches that this life is worthless. This one's so short. There's an infinite reward that comes. This is just a testing ground. This is just, an infinitesimal amount of time as compared to eternity. So if your life is hell here, who cares? You've got heaven waiting for you. Again, if you want to throw away your life, that's your choice. But this is the only one that we have. It's the only one that we have any evidence, any proof of. I'm going to try and enjoy this life as best I can, because it's the only one I have. Going back to the morality, you can't run with the idea that this is the only life, therefore I can do whatever the hell I want. Murder, kill, steal, whatever I want, because there's no reward or consequence for it. The problem with that, again, I don't want to go to jail. This is the only life I got. I'm not going to spend 5 years of it in jail or being shunned by everyone in the community. I like the freedoms. I like getting out and being with friends. So I'm going to try and make peace with everybody, try and be nice to get that. So yeah, we like this life as it is. We don't believe in any of the God stuff or the hell stuff because, again, no evidence. We have plenty of reasons to enjoy this life as it is. So that's what we got. I have my little rants every now and then, damn it.
Go.
All right. Quick little story here, though, and then we're going to go back to callers. Again, we are live today, live call-in show. Phone number is on your screen. Go ahead and give us a call and tell us what you're thinking. For anybody out there lucky enough to be getting BBC4, the British channel, I don't know, is that on satellite? Do you know if you can get? I know you can get some forms of BBC.
I don't get it, so I have no idea.
I know on satellite and digital cable there's some form of BBC that you can get, but exactly what it is, I don't know. But on BBC4 in England, Jonathan Miller is a non-believer. He reluctantly calls himself an atheist, and he is hosting a new show that's coming out in the autumn called Jonathan Miller's Brief History of Disbelief. He reluctantly calls himself an atheist. But what is atheism? Even today, it is still almost impossible to find a straightforward answer, a straightforward history of the subject in the religious bookshelves, which I have actually tried to do. It was funny. I actually went to a Christian bookstore a couple months back, and just going through the book, I was trying to find out what is their view of atheism. Mm-hmm. And every single one, save maybe one, was wrong. They all said that atheists are people who deny the existence of God, and or who hate God, or who have rejected God, or something like that. None of them got it right. They like to set up the straw man because it's easy to knock down. But anyway, in this provocative and challenging series, Jonathan leads viewers on a personal journey exploring the origins of his own lack of belief, as well as uncovering the hidden history of atheism. The final result is a complex and engaging account that reveals the hitherto untold story of disbelief and free thought. So anybody out there who actually gets BBC4, you might want to be on a watch out for that show, because that sounds like it would be pretty interesting. Anyway, we have got more callers lined up, so we'll be going ahead and get to them. Again, phone number's on your screen. Use it and enjoy it. Adam, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Not too bad.
Great. Before you were talking about that new program on BBC4, you were talking about how God is so much a part of people's lives, the fear of afterlife, and following the straight and narrow and all that. In tune with the Olympics, I watched some of these athletes in the post-event interviews, and the first thing they say, they point up and talk about God, and it does kind of suck that they're going to hand over at least a part of their determination and sacrifice, and take credit away from themselves.
Yeah, well, that's what they believe, and if that's what they want to do, then fine. But I'd like to see some of them carry it through to its logical conclusion. I'd like to see the guy who came in last say, I trained really hard and I was going to get this, but, God stopped me.
Yeah.
God didn't want me to win, that jerk.
Yeah, maybe for him to, maybe look up and point the finger or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Damn you!
Okay, thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Yeah, it is kind of depressing to not see anybody take credit occasionally, the very religious people not be unwilling to take some credit for what they can do in their lives. They overcome these, great odds and whatnot, and they sit back and say, yeah, I couldn't have done it without God. Like, you did. Trust us, you did. There was no God out there helping you. You did it on your own. Take some credit. Learn to enjoy it. So, anyway, let's go on to yet more calls. We have got Jules. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, good. What you got for us?
I was just going to say that, I agree with, pretty much with a lot of what you're saying. I'm not particularly religious.
Okay.
I guess I'm agnostic as far as that goes. But you were saying earlier about the importance of seeing the world for what it is and experiencing reality for what it really is and seeing the true nature of things.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you were aware of, have you been following the war on terror? What do you think about that? Because I think that people need to take a closer look at the events of 9/11 and who was really behind it.
Ah, yes.
If we want to see the true nature of reality in the world as it exists today.
Yeah.
And I guess you're thinking that, I don't know what your opinions on that are, but are you familiar with the so-called conspiracy theories or whatever?
Which ones?
Yeah, we've heard a couple of them. So,
what do you think that they're absurd? Do you think that they might have some merit?
Which ones? Really?
Pardon?
There are lots of conspiracy theories. Which one in particular are you talking about?
More broadly based, that the U.S. government aided and staged the 9/11 attacks.
No.
That there was dynamite in the World Trade Center.
No, I don't believe that one.
Oh, okay. What do you know about it? Did you dismiss it quickly, or did you take a great deal of time to look into it?
I don't know for sure that it's false, but I think it's far-fetched enough not to bother about it. And we have kind of a saying as atheists, which is extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Which means,
I'm glad you said that, because there's an extraordinary amount of evidence, but when you know that something's ridiculous offhand, you don't have to take any time to explore that evidence. So you can dismiss it. Why is the idea so unbelievable?
One, it would take the collaboration of all the government, and
that's true.
Government's usually fairly inefficient. They can't do too many things all that well. So the fact that they can cover all this up, I kind of find that doubtful.
So do you believe that George Bush was sitting in a smoke-filled room with a bunch of oil executives saying, our share prices are down and we're not getting as much profit as we could for oil, so what can we do? It would be convenient as to have a national terror threat so we could go take over the world. Let's cause one.
Yeah.
Sure, that flaming death of 6,000 people will be inconvenient, but that's cool with us because it'll boost the stock price.
Yeah.
What evidence do you have that George Bush has a high regard for human life?
That's a separate matter. We try not to get too political on this show.
Yeah.
I am a Democrat, and I'm not real into George Bush, but.
Okay. Aside from George Bush, though,
this is the Atheist Experience.
But I don't believe he personally intentionally caused the flaming deaths of 6,000 people.
I don't believe that he personally planned any of it. He seems like he could read the cue cards and follow instructions. But, Eisenhower said when he was leaving office, he said, "Beware of the military-industrial complex." And then he went on in great detail to point out how large numbers of bankers and investors and people in the military-industrial complex were basically, there was no watchdog for him.
Yeah.
Why would was he being paranoid?
Yeah.
Kennedy said a few days before he was assassinated, he said, I want to warn the American people when I leave office that the office of presidency is being used to...
This is pretty far off topic, though, you realize, for the show.
Well, if this, I guess, okay, I am stretching it, and I don't want to waste too much more of your time. But what I'm saying is that, as an atheist, I would think that you would take great pains. What I'm asking you to do is perhaps not dismiss these things, but look into them, because if you read the 9/11 report, the government story isn't particularly compelling either. Very convincing.
I agree with that. I think that, I think that there's reason to be suspicious of of lots of things, but that's not the same thing as, I mean, you specifically said that the, I forget what it was, but didn't you say something along the lines that the government actually participated in the September 11th attacks intentionally?
I would say a very compelling degree of evidence.
Okay.
But, I couldn't sit here and describe it to you, but can I send y'all a film or something?
Yeah, well, like I say, we're going to go ahead and let you go at this point. Again, we're trying to get back a little bit on topic
well,
here.
Thanks for talking to me.
Okay.
Thanks for calling. Again, having a skeptical outlook on life is always a good thing, and
Right.
questioning any obvious forms of authority, just question it, look into it, find out whether or not it's reasonable or not, and go from there. Regardless of thoughts on 9/11 or Bush or world conspiracies or Islam or whatever, that's not really the point of this show. So, anyway.
Our internet audio show gets a little more political.
Yep. Non-profits every other Saturday, atheistnetwork.com. Next one being, surprisingly enough, September 11th.
Right.
So,
Make a conspiracy theory out of that one.
all right. Well, I'll go ahead and get callers. There we go. Let's go on to more callers now. We have got Sam. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Yeah, pretty
Hi,
good.
Sam.
What you got for us?
Well, I was born. I grew up in a Muslim family.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I always have doubts actually because when I was growing up, I didn't know my my sexual orientation.
Okay.
Okay, so really, since I was like 8 or something, I always have interest like in a man. Okay.
Okay.
So
How is that taken in Islam?
they don't discuss it at all.
Okay.
I mean, you don't.
So they don't even bring it up, unlike the
No,
Bible.
you can't even bring it up. You can't discuss it with anybody. If they find out about you, I mean, they either like, they're not gonna kill you, but you'll be an outsider, an outlaw, whatever.
So pretty much the same as here, under
Yeah, but
most
still,
circumstances.
I mean, a lot of people are open to it here.
Yeah.
But over there, like, you have to, you can't do it like in the open.
No.
You can even talk to your family about it or anything. So you just live in the fear, and it's very confusing actually. So the thing that what bothers me is like lately I've found out like in some scientific like experience or discovery that like when you can be born a gay, for example, and I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah.
What they say that in the womb the brain develop in a different sex, and the body develop in a different sex. Okay?
Yeah, I'm not too sure of the exact details on it, but
Yeah, I'm not sure how certain that is.
yeah,
also.
there are a couple different
No, because
arguments.
they say when it's not normal. Like the kid is only like 8 years old, for example.
Yeah.
They say
Yeah,
Well, I certainly believe that genetics can influence whether you become straight or gay.
Yeah. I think there's evidence either way showing that it's genetics or it's raising, and
it's
really,
it can be genetic, right?
and regardless of the cause, I guess you could say, it's kind of beside the point. I mean, the only argument we have against homosexual relationships is religiously based, and that is a bad reason in itself. If
Right,
that's the only reason is because God condemns it.
Right.
That's not good
Right.
enough.
Regardless of whether it's nature or nurture at work,
Exactly.
we don't particularly think there's any problem with it.
No, but
Exactly.
with the religion, if there is God out there, and He's the one who created us, how
He's
could He
condemning
create
you.
somebody like who is innocent from childhood,
Yeah.
and for a guy like he can miss all the crucial time when he was supposed to be a man. He used to be introduced in manhood, and at the end he can be condemned. And can be persecuted, or he can be thrown to hell, like they said in the religion.
And most religious people would take that and say someone can be born homosexual or have something with them that goes against religion. That's just a test of their faith. It's a hard life. This is your testing ground, and you have to prove yourself and
so
accept Jesus and such. So that's a test. According to religion,
it can be. What is the test? I mean, it has to do.
We agree it's just as moronic as you think it is, but that's what they say.
see, the only people who say that who didn't have to go through this.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. You don't know exactly how the homosexual feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, once in a while they'll trot out some guy who was gay who says he was gay and says he's now straight.
Yeah, he's now straight and he's a good Christian.
As far as I know, it could be possible to switch over, but I would argue that guy was bisexual and probably could go both ways anyway.
Yeah, but it's from the religion point of view. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, you can't be bi or anything. But the problem is like, if you're gay, I mean, you can be attracted to the other sex. That's your feeling. You're not gonna. You can't. It's not like switch.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like switch a button and you're on the next one. I don't know.
Yeah. And if they think you can choose your sexual orientation, ask them. Okay, could you find that guy attractive? I mean, could you fall in love with a man personally if you wanted to?
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't. I mean, I've got nothing against it, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
It's a big issue, but people don't want to discuss like deeply in it, and
it requires thought.
I mean, I tried everything really. Religiously, I tried. I mean, I'm in my 30s, and I mean, I tried everything. I even got married like once, but I couldn't go through with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
See, and I just did it so I can please my parents, but now I'm old enough, and my family is still bothering me, It's impressing me about that, but I don't know where to go next.
Yeah. It's just being honest with yourself, finding out where you stand on the issues, and just going from there.
Well, on the other side, when I look like on the Ten Commandments, I mean, I feel like, there is a God out there who is, who trying to, who wants people to...
He's sabotaging you.
What's that?
He's sabotaging you. If God exists, he's sabotaging you. So, very kind and just and good of him, we think so. Strange people out there who think that. But we're going to go ahead and let you go at this point. We've got some other callers lined up.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot for calling. Bye. Yeah, how people try and explain that, I'm still not sure. Again, religious people saying that there are tests and all these hard times are your tests, and but again, God assumably is all-knowing. Yep. He knows what you're going to do, so therefore the test is kind of moot.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have got more callers lined up, so we're going to go ahead and take Todd. How you doing?
Pretty good. How y'all doing?
Not too bad. What you got for us?
I wanted to see if I could tell y'all a quick story. I've been working at a psychiatric hospital for about 18 years now, and I've been an atheist for about 20.
What?
And this one patient that I had, he was about 18 years old. It's funny and it's amusing simply because as an atheist, I actually had to convince somebody they were not an atheist, because this guy, he was mentally disturbed, obviously, and he was telling me about how his grandfather was dying of cancer, and he was praying for him every day, and the one day that he didn't pray for him was the day that he died. And so he's sitting there saying, I think I'm an atheist, because I told him, I don't believe in God and all that. And after he told me that, I said, well, no, you're not an atheist. You're just mad at God. You're still a Christian. You're just pissed off at God.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people like one of the book you were reading from earlier when you were talking about the quote atheist.
This one,
that,
Case for Faith?
Case for
yeah,
Faith.
the atheist that said, the
I miss
token
God.
atheist.
I miss Jesus.
Yeah, it's like that guy obviously wasn't an atheist. He may have convinced himself, I'm pissed off at God or something, but that doesn't make you an atheist.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to bring up, you're talking about C.S. Lewis. And I work with a lot of conservative Christians as well as open-minded people.
Do you work in Texas by any chance?
Yeah. So it's nice to at least have a mix here in Austin of some open-minded people.
Yeah,
too.
I know what you mean.
But one of the nurses that I work with is very, very hardcore, and she, out of the blue tells me that her son's addicted to porn. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, it's probably because you had such a tight grip on his sexuality as a child that when he finally grew up and got out of the house, he said, yeah, I got to get all the porn I can get, But this nurse was, she was bad-mouthing the Harry Potter books and saying how they were satanic and all this shit. But in the same breath, she's saying how C.S. Lewis is a great Christian writer and how, J.R.R. Tolkien. And I'm sitting here going, well, okay, all these books have witchcraft and sorcery and magic and all this stuff, but her beef with Harry Potter is that it's magic. It's teaching children black magic. And I'm like, well, have you ever seen a child do black magic? I mean, did you ever walk in on your 9-year-old son and he was levitating off the bed or something? I mean, it's like you're sitting here saying these books are teaching kids black magic, but are they really teaching anything? I mean, no, I haven't ever witnessed anyone do any kind of magic except for David Blaine or some idiot like that,
One of my favorite stories about when the Dungeons and Dragons craze was a big deal in the 80s, and they were testifying against fundamentalists who were trying to shut down Dungeons and Dragons because they mistakenly thought that people were learning to do real black magic. One of the guys defending Dungeons and Dragons said, okay, let me show you how it works when you cast a spell. And he takes his 20-sided die, and he rolls his die, and, he rolls 17 or whatever, and he says, oh, well, that spell didn't work. And the woman talking to him said, of course not. Jesus was protecting me.
It's hilarious. I just wanted to relay that. I work at a place where I've got so many people that are, the coworkers, not the crazy people I work with. The coworkers are nuts. I got people that have been abducted by aliens, and these are my coworkers that I work with.
Wow.
And, they have ghosts that live with them and, all these kind of lovely things. Anyway, I'll let y'all get on to your next caller. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay, thanks all for calling.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really funny whenever the new Harry Potter movie or book comes out or something like that, just see the Christians go completely nutso. Right. Trying to burn the books and ban the movie and saying it should be taken out of schools and just having complete fits.
Free publicity.
Oh, it's great fun.
No wonder it's doing so well.
It's great fun. Anyway, we have got a couple more callers. Again, phone number is on your screen. This is the Atheist Experience. If you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and give us a call. Dave, how you doing?
Hey guys, how you doing today?
Pretty well. What you got for us?
First a little preface. I'm a longtime viewer, big fan of you guys. I've been listening for a long time. I have my own unsaved T-shirt that I got because I saw you wearing one.
Excellent.
Yep.
But I gotta nail you on something here. Let's back up just a second. And I know I'm going to bring in the 9/11 stuff, but I won't dwell on it. I promise you.
Okay.
I just want to ask you to read one book, and then I promise I'll move on to a related topic.
Okay.
This book is called The New Pearl Harbor by David Ray Griffin. And this is not wacko conspiracy craziness. This is hardcore stuff. So
does it have anything to do with the Project for a New American Century?
Oh, it's got a whole lot to do with it. Thank you. I'm glad you know about that.
Just for the record, I believe a lot of that stuff.
Oh, you believe that? You mean having read the PNAC documents?
I've read some of the PNAC documents, yeah. I think there's something to that. But
that's a relief right there, just to hear you say that.
That guy was talking about the Bush administration personally orchestrating the attacks, which I don't think there's is
actually,
very plausible.
He didn't actually say that directly.
Well, okay.
He kind of denied that, actually.
He was kind of speaking really generally. Now, see, now you're making me dwell on 9/11. I swear I wasn't going to.
Sorry.
But very quickly, what the PNAC documents and all that stuff relates to, basically, it honestly spells out. I mean, Rumsfeld. I'm not talking about George W. This guy can't find his way out of bed. But but Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl, Libby Lewis, those guys, they wrote the PNAC documents that basically call for an attack on America by terrorists so that we can then enact the Patriot Act and blah, 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 blah.
I wouldn't say they call for it so much as say, gee, that would be incredibly convenient if it did happen.
That's true. And don't you think it then became incredibly convenient right after they took the White House?
I think they were good at taking advantage of what happened. I hate to do this because Ashley is more conservative than I am, and
Ashley, I'm so surprised.
Well, conservative may not be the right word, but
okay.
as compared to the ultra left wing people that a lot of my friends and a lot of my coworkers and hang out people with are.
I mean, it's a wide ranging spectrum. I mean, I'm not at the far left. Right. The far left are guys like David Icke that think there's a reptilian sub-race running everything.
What?
I'm not out
We
there.
got a call on him last week, actually.
Really? David Icke, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, mentioning David Icke.
But, yeah, I'm not out there. But believe me, now I'll give you two quick examples, I promise you, and I'll move on.
Okay.
Very quickly, on September 10th, 2001, someone bought a whole bunch of put options. Do you know about this at all?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Heard about it,
Okay,
yeah.
a put option is I don't understand it because I don't have enough money to play the stock market, but it's something about...
It's where you can buy a stock at a certain, or you can sell a stock at a certain price, even if the price moves around, and you pay for the privilege of selling it at a different price.
Yeah.
Right, it's kind of gambling in a way. It's like buying the futures of something.
Exactly.
Well, somebody, blank personage, bought a bazillion dollars worth of this stock on American Airlines. All right, if that's the right airline, I forget. But anyway,
I think so.
September 11th, kaboom! All hell breaks loose. Right? There's $25 million in payoff on those purchases still sitting at the New York Stock Exchange, which no one has ever claimed because it became public that these put options had been purchased on September 10th.
Don't put options eventually expire?
Probably.
Like after a certain amount of time, they're worthless?
They went unclaimed, is my point.
Yeah.
And they were bought the day before. Come on. Okay, secondly, very quickly, absolute photographic evidence of the front of the Pentagon building. There's no wreckage of a plane on the lawn whatsoever. And there's a hole about the size of a garage door in the building. No 757 made that hole. And left no wreckage on the lawn.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll email you guys that photograph. But anyway, okay, now that's my whole 9/11 thing.
Okay.
But please read the book.
All right. The thing about conspiracy theories that
Do we want to go on this?
I don't know.
I think you're just afraid. I think you're afraid of this topic.
No, I'm not afraid of this topic.
It's seriously off topic.
No.
So,
well,
it is off topic.
I can actually tie it to the Atheist Experience.
The thing about conspiracy theories that bring up, like, I have a photograph where you would expect it to be one way, but it's another, is that sometimes you don't really know what you would expect. I mean, the guys who do the moon landing hoax,
right? Yeah.
They have all kinds of things like
shadow direction.
Yeah, like oh my gosh, the shadows are coming from here, and you can't see the stars in the sky or something. And there's really basic, high school physics explanations.
Yeah.
They actually have a little bit of compelling evidence. My wife and I argue about that one all the time. She thinks absolutely we never went anywhere near the moon.
Oh God.
But okay, now that actually brings
badastronomy.com.
Yeah.
No, that's a terrible site. I've looked at that many times. I can segue between 9/11 and Atheist Experience. Watch this; is going to be nice.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the nature of evidence for a minute.
Okay.
Now, back in the Martin days, when I started watching,
Yep.
This was worse, but now it's a little better. You guys, intelligent gentlemen, open-minded thinkers, I admire you, but you have a very narrow definition of evidence. It seems to be very Western, very empirical, very tied to the scientific structure.
Okay.
And that sort of invalidates all of human history and cultures around the world, and I just don't know.
Wait.
How is that?
Why?
Yeah, how's that? Why?
Why does it invalidate
because
all
let's say, for example, an entire, I don't know. Let's just go with the Native American spirituality, which I'm pretty well versed in. These guys have an absolutely functional, or had an absolutely functional relationship with the planet, based on the idea that everything was alive.
What do you mean by relationship? Did they have sex with it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Sorry. I just
couldn't resist.
The word relationship is, carries a lot of baggage with it.
Well, here's what I mean by relationship.
Okay.
They were here 10,000 years, and it was pretty beautiful when white guys showed up. We were here like 300 years, and we ruined it. That's what I mean by a relationship.
Okay.
So that whole idea, to me, they had, let's put it in quotes, evidence for their beliefs. You guys seem to be really, like, if you can't find it in a biology
which beliefs?
textbook.
Well, the beliefs that, if you smoke something, then it will rain?
I mean, what beliefs is it that allow them to do that?
There are different kinds of beliefs. There's beliefs that if you plant corn, then it will sprout in a few months, and there's
let me take
that you can make it rain. Those are different.
Let's go from the other side. Let's go from your side out.
Okay.
Just a minute ago, Ashley said something about, you guys were talking about how wonderful it is. No, understand, let me go back to my preface. I'm on your side. Okay, I am no friend of organized religion or Christianity by any means. But a minute ago you said something about going out into the garden and enjoying the garden for what it is, and it's a wonderful thing, and you don't have to believe in fairies or elves to do that. But outside of the very narrow range of Western science, electrons and protons and transfer of chemicals and osmosis and photosynthesis is fairly ephemeral too. There's not a whole lot. I mean, it's kind of a belief system on its own. I mean, what I'm saying overall, I'm saying Western science.
So electrons don't exist?
Yes, of course. But Western science's evidence is no more valid than any other belief system just because it's the one we grew up with.
Well, no, but it is backed up. But it's something that's reproducible. It's
predictions.
Yeah, you can make predictions.
I give you that. I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm just saying it's no more valid.
Okay,
no, I don't think so.
But the belief system that if you smoke this certain pipe, it'll rain, that's not backed up. Half the time you do, half the time it doesn't.
Actually, it is, because a lot. Well, I don't want to get into that because I don't want to go down a side road here because I don't want to lose my point. You guys are. I don't want to go Limbaugh. You guys are getting Limbaugh on me where you go off point here.
Oh, now that's fighting words.
I'm sorry, that was mean. That was uncalled for. But what I'm really trying to say, especially Martin, I got to say, Martin, boy, he would just be like, if he couldn't hold it in his hand, he couldn't believe in it.
And I don't think that's the way he thought. I mean, I'm still friends with him.
Well, at least on the show. I like Martin. I see him in Half Price all the time. I'm just saying that on the show, he was very hardcore about proof and evidence. Yeah. And it seemed to have such a kind of Western science tilt to it that it made you guys look a little narrow-minded. I'm sorry, but narrow-minded.
Well, a lot of the other things that we had seen, as in, Eastern medicine and sciences and stuff like that, there isn't as much, I hate to use a word that you're using here, but evidence to back them up. We have no good, solid proof, reproducible, predictive evidence or anything like that of, let's say, acupuncture, energy meridians, chakras, anything like that.
Well, no proof that you will accept. See, that's my point.
There is no predictable evidence out there other than stories.
That's true or not true, but I'll bet if there was evidence, you would subtly spin it, even unconsciously, as you read along.
Well,
honestly,
people do that.
Of course
but
they
there are people who, I mean, and I won't claim that we're immune from seeing what we want to see to a certain extent. But I personally believe that there is a difference in mindsets between being willing to listen to and examine the evidence and being willing to admit that you can change your mind if a certain thing comes along, and being the kind of person who says, I absolutely believe that this is true and nothing will ever change my mind. Now, you may not consider me completely honest when I say that I can imagine things that would convince me that whatever, meridians, whatever you were talking about.
That wasn't me. That was the guy next to you.
Yeah, okay. I threw that one out there.
I don't mention energy meridians.
Whatever. I could be convinced of the reality of those things. I'm willing to go ahead and say that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, good. Well, that's great. That's actually, honestly,
but I don't.
That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
All I'm asking is that...
I grant that, then.
There you go. Thank you. That's all I need to know. You guys can move on to the next caller. But very quickly, before I go, honestly, just consider that there may be evidence that isn't readily available. That's all I'm saying.
always consider
Yeah,
that.
I mean, we always consider that. There could be things that we don't know.
But that's different from saying, yep, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, until we find some kind of evidence of, again, chakras as an example, I see no reason to believe in it. Or to assume that they exist,
well, yeah, believing in it is different, but slamming the door shut on it is an act that's sort of in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I believe.
And depending
I don't believe
on
in chakras, I'm not saying I do.
Yeah, and again, I'm just throwing it out there as an example. But again, there can be reasons that you could say that this is highly unlikely to actually exist. For instance, chakras are usually considered some form of energy field. Well, we can measure most forms of energy that we have any comprehension or affect the world in any way on pretty much any scale. We have some form of measurement.
That we have right now.
And, well, yes, but we can observe the energies that affect our world, that move things around and do stuff.
Right.
We can see that energy in one form or another, be it light, heat, magnetism, whatever. When you point those cameras and do those experiments in somebody's chest measuring a heart chakra, nothing comes up. And so it's not electromagnetic, it's not, heat, it's nothing like this. So that cuts down on the possibilities of what it actually could be. And even if it is a form that we don't know, it's a form, therefore, that probably doesn't do all that much.
And even when you ask those guys to come up with their own experiments where they actually predict that something will happen more often than chance, they never come up with something that actually works.
Well, you're actually putting me in the position of defending something I don't believe in.
Uh-oh.
I don't know from chakras, okay?
Okay.
What all I'm saying is, let's just say, for example, magnetism. You mentioned it a minute ago.
Yeah.
I don't know, 1,500 years ago. I have no idea. That's probably wrong. But 1,500 years ago, it couldn't be measured. Probably it could, but let's say it couldn't.
Yeah.
Because of the technology. And then the technology came along that could measure it, so then we believed in it. But it always existed. So maybe right now we don't have the technology that can measure ESP waves or something.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So I'm
well,
saying,
when you find evidence of that stuff, then we'll change our minds. Until then, there's no reason to.
Yeah, there's no reason
to slam the door either. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you should believe until you're proven wrong. I'm just saying your evidence definition is a little fine, maybe.
Yeah. And usually the only reason that we'd bring stuff like that up is when studies come out saying, either there was a study recently showing that, I think it was astrology or something like that, has absolutely no basis in reality. As in, they looked at all these different, Piscean people or whatever it is, and found that there is no similarity. It's no more than chance that somebody's going to be more energetic if they're a Piscean or whatever.
Right.
And so, this kind of survey was done on astrology and found that, well, no, it doesn't really have anything behind it. There'll either be that, or there'll be studies saying that, yes, we found proof that homeopathy works, but it's such a bad study that it doesn't deserve any merit.
Right.
So.
I think I'm thinking over what we're all saying here. I actually think we agree. We're just arguing because that's how we started. But we all sort of agree that an open mind is a good thing. That's sort of what I'm saying. Let me loop it back, and then I'll get off the phone. Very quickly looping it back. The reason I even bother to call and harp at you about this is because of that initial knee-jerk reaction. Well, it's ridiculous that the government could have been in on the 9/11. See, that whole
I didn't say it couldn't happen, though. I said that you would need some pretty extraordinary evidence to demonstrate that it did, and I haven't seen that as extraordinary.
Okay, now here's where I loop it down, close it up.
Okay.
That book I mentioned, extraordinary evidence.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, thanks a lot for calling. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left on the show. I think one more call, possibly. Let me see. Pete, how you doing?
Yeah, just fine. I'm Pete.
Okay.
To get back to some kind of basic issues that you usually deal with here, I've been looking at some ways that the First Amendment has been meddled with over the last 25 years, and in particular last week. And I'd like to hear from you, fellows, what is meant by the establishment of religion in that clause. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion.
And establishment. Sorry.
That's U.S. law, as it's constitutional law at least. And the courts have dealt with that in various ways. When we had O'Hare versus the school district, it was decided that because the schools paid taxes and were subject to federal regulations, we could have a law which says now there's no more praying. It's Supreme Court law.
It's
law of the land. No more praying in the public schools.
It's not a solid, legal definition, but I would say my interpretation of that is the government should not endorse or restrict the freedom of religion. If you want to believe something, go ahead and do it.
Then how
but the government itself should not promote it in any way, and its representatives shouldn't promote it on government time and government dime.
How does a local school district interface with the federal or state government in that?
Well, they're still responsible for following laws. I'm confused as to what exactly you mean.
Well, we have a court decision which says it's against the law in a certain state. It didn't say the other 49 states. It just said that state.
Okay.
And Texas was not the state in which that occurred.
Are you talking about the Perrien school?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that was actually Ninth Circuit, which is basically out west. I think it was 9 states, I want to say, or something like that. Or it was a handful of states out there. But anyway.
Well, eventually, the response here was I was teaching in Texas at that time, I believe. Yeah, I was in San Antonio, and they stopped having morning devotionals.
Okay, if they had a morning face Mecca and pray to Allah, would you be down with that?
Well, I personally get upset with any kind of religious observations in the public schools.
Okay.
Because we have in the public schools, even 40 years ago, in the public schools, we had Jews, Catholics, an occasional agnostic, and would you believe it, now and then an atheist, even back then. And I regard it as persecution and a violation of persons' individual rights that we have guaranteed to us.
Yeah.
To force us to listen to that sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I want to know is, why then can they turn right around and say that in God we trust on the Cohens? This is another of O'Hare's issues. In God we trust is not establishing religion.
Yeah. Again, I think it falls into the same thing as establishing religion, but it's so far below the radar that it's not really that big of an issue. With that, we're going to have to let you go. We're down to the last couple seconds on the show.
Right.
Thanks a lot for calling, though.
Ask George Humphrey about it when you get a chance, will you?
Fine.
Okay.
That'll be interesting.
Thanks, Sean. All right. I assume we're going to try for this really quickly. Yeah. Jeff, make it quick.
Oh, hi, guys.
30 seconds.
I got 30 seconds to try to defend all of Western science against that idiot.
Yes.
Do it next time you're on. You're on next week.
I'd like to ask that fella. I didn't catch his name, the caller before this one, to please call back on a show where I'm on, so he can try to attack Western science and give me a chance to defend it.
Okay. All right, Dave, if you're still watching, next week Jeff D is going to be on. He's got a word for you. See you next week.
Is it next week for me?
Yep.